was just reading the Word and reading over and over again Kings and Chronicles. It's just so interesting, everything that you read. And I always think about all the kings and how one would be born and they obeyed and listened to the voice of God. And then the next one raised up was who came and became king. They did what was wrong in the sight of God. And it just kind of went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's like, what in the world? Why did either they did not listen to their parents, or it was like from generation to the next generation to the next generation. It's like they seem to have done everything that was not good in the eyes of their father or good in the eyes of God. So when I read about the history of the kings and go to Chronicles and just the history in the Bible, I can see how I think about how God knows everything and how God sees everything from the very beginning of time, and how I see God's plan unfolding. And even when in the midst of it, when you see their mistakes, because we're reading it and we see their mistakes and we say, man, why did they do that? Why did they say that? And why didn't they listen to the commands of God? And they just went about doing what was wrong in the sight of God. And they went after other gods. They made their graven images and they bowed down to false gods when God commanded them not to. But and that led them into captivity. The rise and the fall of all these kingdoms. It seems like God knew what was going to happen, and it led all the way up to the coming of Messiah. And he knew all of this was going to happen. But it's just a wild ride, because when you read it, even the captivity of Jerusalem, the Babylonian captivity, the Assyrian captivity, and then coming back to Jerusalem after Cyrus did the decree, and they built the temple, the second temple. There was a reason for everything that they did. And so the plan of God has always been a relationship, because God is a relationship God. And his plan was always to have depth of fellowship with his creation. And he brought them out of the land of Egypt in order to have a relationship with them and to be their God, to be their only one king, and for them to know that they can rely on God in everything that they can possibly think of. Yet they wanted a king like every other nation. And he told them, look, if you have a king, that king is going to tax you. That king is going to take your sons and daughters, and they're going to go to war, and they're going to be drafted, and you're going to intermarry. You're going to do all of these things, and you're going to follow other gods. And that's exactly what happened. And God knew that was going to happen. But man wanted a king just like every other nation. They wanted to be like everybody else. They didn't want to just rely on God. They wanted to do everything themselves. And I think about today and how man is still the same way. They don't want to fully trust and rely upon God, fully rely on God. Jesus has to be, Yeshua has to be number one, the only one that you will rely on. And that is what God's relationship with man, what he wanted it to be. And so, even knowing all of this, even before time, he had to have a plan of redemption, because once man sins, that was it. Once man decides to do their own thing, then he gives man up to their reprobate mind. That's what he says. He gives man's up to their own desires, their own wants. Even when God has put the plan of blessings and in front of your face, man still desires to do their own thing because their mindset is on self. It's not upon anybody else, even though they say it is. Man's nature and mind is always self-conscious, always self-absorbed, always self-gratifying. Everything is for self. It's not for God. That was lost in the first sin. And so God had to have a plan at the very beginning of time. And he did. He did have a plan. And that was Yeshua. So everything in every event, even the wars and the kingdoms that they rise and they fall, and Israel being conquered and came back and conquered again and came back, it was all leading up to Messiah. God is always purging his people. He's always cutting off the moss, cutting off the broken branches. He's always trimming and refining man, and everything is for sole purpose of making us holy, making us like him. The building of nations and kingdoms was purposely done to bring about a people who would not waver on their faith and belief in the one true God, in the one only God. Relationship is God's plan. That is who he is. And if we don't master the art of relationship and how we can relate with others and how we can connect with others in a spiritual way, then we have failed the test. We have not really known God personally in a way that he wants us to know him. So when it comes right down to it, it started with a family, and in the end of the book, it ends with a kingdom. And it tells you and shows you that in the beginning, the first order of things, the first commandment for man was to be a husband, was to be a wife, was to take on the responsibility of conquering and subduing and building this kingdom that God has given mankind. So the kingdom starts in the home, starts with the man, starts with the woman, and builds the house with wisdom. Ever since the beginning, there has been forces and kingdoms that has been trying to reverse the order of God. And in the last days, they are going to even be more powerful, and the kingdoms and the powers of the air are going to be more deceptive than ever before, and many are going to come to believe and follow a lie rather than the truth. It's already been happening, and the deception is going to hit, and in the last days, the deception is going to be so powerful that even believers will start to believe and will start to, the enemy's just going to wiggle the lie right into the belief system that what if this is real or true. So we've got to be on guard, as Christians. Just keep praying and pray for your loved ones, pray for your sons and your daughters, pray for your own soul, because many will come to even believe a lie rather than the truth, because it sounds good, and we've got to be careful. So read up, read your word, pray constantly, and I'll pray pray for you, and you can pray for me. God bless you guys.